Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and I'm going to do a tag video. I'm so excited. I'm going to do the clue game tag that was created by Sarah from The Bookish Knitter and Scott and Becky of The Bookish Bryants. But before I get into that, I need to reveal the book that I found that fit the M&M manuscript matchup game from my previous video. So I had to find a book that had green on the cover and involved an animal. So I found Shadows of Death by Jean M. Dams. It has green on the cover and there's a cat right there because the main character, Dorothy Martin, has a couple of cats that always play a part in her stories. So yay, I totally did it. And stay tuned to the end of this video where I will play again and we will find our new manuscript matchup categories. Okay, this tag video is really fun and I'm excited to get into it. So the first prompt is Mr. Green, a book that takes place in the UK. And for that I have Pride and Prescience by Carrie, Bebris, or A Truth Universally Acknowledged. This is a Mr. and Mrs. Darcy mystery. So this is a really fun series that I love. The author is a huge Jane Austen fan, and so there are 7 books in the series, one for each of her main books, plus one about Sanditon, which was an unfinished manuscript that Jane Austen was working on. And so Pride and Prescience, of course, this one is the first in the series and it is connected to Pride and Prejudice. So these are just really fun, historical, cozy mysteries. All right, the second prompt is Colonel Mustard, a book featuring a character in the military. And for this I went with A Regimental Murder by Ashley Gardner. This is a historical mystery series set in the Regency time period. This one's actually the second in the series, but it was called A Regimental Murder, which felt even more like military-like. The main character of this book is Captain Lacey. For Captain Lacey, the war on injustice never ends. I really like this series. It's set in the Regency time period, which I love. And Captain Gabriel Lacey is a cashiered cavalry officer of the 35th Light Dragoons. So definitely a character in the military. The third prompt is Miss Peacock, a book that you feel is patriotic. And for that I went with A Foreign Affair by Caro Peacock. This is the first in her Liberty Lane series, and this is a series set in Victorian time period in England, and the main character, Liberty Lane, is basically a private detective, and in this book she gets asked by the Queen to look into, there's some conspiracies, treasonous plots, and the Queen is in peril, and so there's a lot of patriotism involved in this particular outing in this series. Then we have Mrs. White, a book where a main character is part of the household staff. And for that I have Mrs. Hudson and the Malabar Rose by Martin Davies. This is a series that features Mrs. Hudson of Sherlock Holmes fame. So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are characters in this, but the main character is Mrs. Watson, and in this series she's actually the clever one who solves the mysteries. I like that little twist on the idea, and so yeah, this is a great series, again set in the Victorian time period in London, and it's a really fun series. Okay, Library, a book about books. And so for this I had to go with The Book of the Dead by Elizabeth Dalley. This is an American series written in the 40s, and our main character is a book detective or something of that sort. I've only read one or two so far in this series, but they're really fun. So Henry Gamage is a rare book expert, and in this one there is Howard Crenshaw had prepared for death as carefully as though he were attending a formal party. There was nothing suspicious in his passing except for some cryptic jottings he had made in an old volume of Shakespeare next to marked passages in The Tempest. So yeah, definitely about books, and the main character is part of the book world. Kitchen, a book that is a culinary mystery. And so for this I went with The Cocoa Conspiracy by Andrea Penrose. This is, I think, the second in the series, her Lady Ariana Regency series. And again, this was a great series. It's set in the Regency time period, which I love. And the main character does a lot of cooking, and there is definitely connections to culinary, because each chapter starts with a recipe from Lady Ariana's chocolate notebooks. So she is all about chocolate and finding ways to cook with chocolate, to bake with chocolate. And so the beginning of each chapter actually has recipes of things that you can make with chocolate. So yeah, they're really, really fun. This one is bittersweet chocolate iced cream. And so yeah, these are a really fun historical mystery series, and there are definitely culinary aspects. Okay, The Conservatory, a book or cover featuring plants or flowers or trees. And for this one I had to go with Death in Kew Garden by Jennifer Ashley. This is one that I don't own, so I'm going to put the cover here. I did just read it, and so there are definitely trees on the cover, and it is also, there is a lot of the action takes place at Kew Gardens. And I mean, I think Kew Gardens is a conservatory, or parts of it are for sure. So I thought that was a good one. I love that series. That is one of her Cat Holiday series. Cat Holiday is a chef, and in Victorian London. And those are historical mysteries again. All right, Hall, a book that takes place in a mansion. For this, I went with The Old English Peep Show by Peter Dickinson. This is one of his Superintendent Pribble series. So he is a detective at Scotland Yard, and he gets sent out to a mansion to investigate what initially appears to be a suicide, but of course turns into much, much more. And this was, I believe, published in the 60s. Yes, 1969, and it was initially published as titled A Pride of Heroes. Okay, The Candlestick, a book that takes place or was published prior to 1802. And I went with A Dark Anatomy by Robin Blake. This is set in the 1740s in England. Again, this is a great series. When a vicious slaying unleashes a wave of panic, the village coroner Titus Craig finds himself embroiled in the hunt for a murderer in this darkly rich and atmospheric historical mystery. All right, Gun, a book featuring a police officer, and for that I went with The Last Detective by Peter Lovesey. This is a police procedural series set in Bath in England, which I love. And so Peter Diamond is the police officer in this series. He is an inspector. Nope, he is a detective superintendent, sorry. And he investigates a case, and there is a connection in this book in the series, which is the first one. There is a connection to missing letters attributed to Jane Austen and whether or not they are real or forgeries. And so what I love about this series is, I mean, the character, first of all, as a police officer, he's a great character, and I like following him throughout the series. But I also love that the author takes advantage of the setting of Bath, and so there are often a lot of connections to like the Roman elements in Bath or the literary elements in Bath, and I love that there's connections like that in these books. And then The Wrench, a book with a skilled trade worker, and so for that I went with The Blue, which is by Nancy Bilyeu, and this is a historical mystery set in England in the 18th century, but it is about the world of porcelain. So there are a lot of characters in this book who make porcelain in the factories, and that's a skilled trade, but the main character, Genevieve, is an artist, and she gets hired to paint scenes onto the porcelain, and that is definitely a skilled trade as well. I love this book. I highly, highly recommend it. It's so fascinating. And then finally, Dagger, a book where a ritualistic murder takes place. And for that, I went with Why Mermaids Sing by C.S. Harris. This is part of her Sebastian St. Cyr series. This is a series set in the Regency, again, in London. You will discover from this video that that is a favorite time period of mine to read mysteries from. And in this one, there are definite ritualistic killings. Someone is killing the wealthy young sons of London's most prominent families, partially butchered with strange objects stuffed in their mouths. The bodies are found dumped in public places at dawn. So yeah, this again is a great series that I love. So there you have it. Those are my answers to this tag. This was really, really fun, so thanks guys for creating this. And I'm not going to tag anybody specifically, but if you are participating in March Mystery Madness, then I am tagging you to do this video. This is a really fun video to do, especially during this month of March. It would be really fun to really see it going around on BookTube. So consider yourself tagged. I'll have all the prompts in the description box below so that you can play along. And now, before we end this video, we need to do our March Mystery Madness M&M manuscript matchup. So, here we go. I'm going to include the link to this game piece as well in the description box below. So our first M&M is orange. So that gives us the detective column. All right. What kind of a detective are we going to have to find? This is red. So that means we need to find a book with a female detective. And let's pick again for our second requirement. Oh, see now, I got an orange one, so no repeats, so I'm going to pick again. Oh, I got another red one. So we will pick again. The advantage here is, of course, I get to eat all of these M&Ms after. So, awesome. Okay, we got green. So that gives us the time period category. So a female detective in what time period? Let's see. Blue. So we need to find a female detective from 1980 to 2000, and I already know what book I'm gonna pick for this. So can you find a book that has a female detective that was either written or set in the 1980s to the 2000s? Put your answers in the comment section down below. I can't wait to see what you come up with, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.